Does the word soufflé scare you? Are you intimidated? I'll take you step by step through the process of making one incredible dessert, passion fruit soufflé. Little soufflé dishes like this are available in department stores. These are made out of porcelain. They're very, very thick-sided porcelain, perfect for baking. Butter with room temperature softened butter and a soft bristle brush. And to help the soufflé climb up the sides and also to give a little crunch, put about a teaspoon of sugar in each ramekin. Coat completely with sugar. Pour out the excess. Soufflé is a noun that comes from the French verb meaning to blow up. And that's kind of what the soufflé does. It rises above the tops, usually, of the soufflé dishes and gives you a light and airy and tasty dessert. Or entree. You can make cheese soufflés, spinach soufflés, lobster soufflés. But my favorite soufflés are the sweet soufflés. There. So these are prepared, ready for filling. So first, heat your milk, half a cup of milk. Just warm it. And in a bowl, we have 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. And you can soften this with just a tiny, tiny bit of passion fruit juice or puree. So just stir this up. This is going to be tempered with the hot milk. Our milk is warm. Now temper. Very small amounts because we're only making 4. The smell is phenomenal. Now pour this back into your pot and cook over low heat until it thickens. At this point, you can start beating your egg whites. So 4 large egg whites. To the egg whites, 1/4 teaspoon of fresh lemon juice. Now cook this approximately a minute. It really doesn't take too long to cook that cornstarch. And you can scrape that back into your big bowl. So you see, that's the base. Don't add all of the passion fruit juice to the cooked mixture because fruit juices kind of change taste when they're heated. Now is the time to add the rest of the passion fruit juice. Lovely. Now add your sugar. You see how nice the egg whites have taken on some volume? Add your 1/4 cup of granular sugar. We want them shiny and smooth and not dry. So now, a little bit of this volume, isn't that beautiful? Gets folded into your base. You want the egg whites completely incorporated, but don't deflate. Now your oven has to be preheated to 425 degrees. And then this lovely mixture goes into the soufflé cups. These are 6-ounce soufflé dishes. And we want to add equal amounts of mixture to each. Just level it off with your little offset spatula and pop these into the oven. They're going to take approximately 14 to 16 minutes. Tip, keep the oven closed during the baking process. And before the soufflés come out of the oven, we're going to finish them off with just a little bit of the fresh passion fruit. When you open them, don't be surprised. Not the prettiest fruit in the world, but certainly one of the tastiest and most unusual fruits in the world. And there's all these little seeds inside. Everything inside is edible. So there, we have enough of the passion fruit puree. Oh, there's our timer. The passion fruit soufflés should be ready. Always set a timer. Would you like to see what they look like? More beautiful than you can imagine. So gorgeous. Now sprinkle with a little bit of powdered sugar. Quickly, because these have to get to the table. And lift these carefully onto your serving plates. They're very, very hot. Rush them to the table. And you can take the point of a spoon if you like, just make a little slit in the top and put a little bit of the fresh passion fruit right inside. I guarantee tasting this dessert is the fastest way to transport your taste buds to the tropics. I love to bake with rhubarb, and I thought I'd show you how to make a delicious rhubarb-raspberry biscuit cobbler today. Always look for red stalks or pink stalks. The green stalks are okay, they're edible, but they'll require more sugar than the red. Cut the leaves off about 1 or 2 inches below the leaf. Then if the stalks themselves are too big, you can cut them in half. So you'll get 1/2 inch pieces. So here, just cut this crosswise into 1/2 inch pieces. Hold it firmly with your one hand and cut through with your other. There, all done. Now you can just put that right into a large bowl. So you need approximately 1.5 pounds of rhubarb stalk cut into 1/2 inch pieces. Add the juice of 1/2 a lemon, and it's best to use one of these fabulous squeezers. Squeeze all over the rhubarb, and add a large pinch of salt all over the place, and add 1/4 cup of instant tapioca. Tapioca is a starchy substance extracted from the root of the cassava plant. Cassavas are grown primarily in South America. It doesn't have any flavor whatsoever, but gives fillings a really nice glossy sheen. And it's such a nice natural thickener. Add 1 1/4 cups of sugar. Stir that in. Add your 2 pints of beautiful red raspberries. The red raspberries complement the rhubarb so nicely. Set this aside for 15 minutes or so. You'll see all the nice juice exude from the fruit. Now, preheat your oven to 400 degrees and make your biscuit topping. So in the bowl, 1/3 cup of cake flour and 1 cup of all-purpose unbleached white flour and 1/4 cup of sugar and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Now, the leavening. 2 teaspoons of baking powder and 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. It's very important to make sure that your baking powder is fresh. Whisk all this together. So there are all the dry ingredients. Oh, sift your zested lemon right into the dry ingredients. And it is the zest of 1/2 a lemon. Into that, cut 6 tablespoons of cold butter. You can do this in a food processor in just a couple of seconds, but I'm taking after my mom and using a pastry cutter like this. This is great for pie crusts, great for biscuits like this, but it's also great for, can you guess, egg salad. So there we have the butter incorporated. Now stir in 3/4 cup of plain whole milk yogurt. Don't use the Greek style yogurt, which, although very delicious, is just too thick for this particular job. So here we have our biscuit dough, our juicy fruit, and 10-ounce ramekins. Now this show is all about cooking with extraordinary fruits. Rhubarb really is not classified as a fruit, it is classified as a vegetable. But in the United States, rhubarb is primarily used as a fruit. So, we are making an exception and utilize all the syrup. It'll be extremely tasty. Now, the easiest way to make equal dollops of biscuit dough is use an ice cream scoop like this. This is a release type ice cream scoop. And just release a blob right on top of each of the ramekins. Now your oven, is it preheated to 375? Make sure it is. Now, right before you put it in the oven, brush the biscuit dough with heavy cream. This helps brown the biscuit and get these right into the oven. Bake rotating halfway through until the biscuits are golden brown, 35 to 40 minutes. Now these have cooled for a little bit so I can pick it up, but notice lots of drips down the sides. Luckily we had parchment, but I'm not going to try to clean these because I think it looks like candy stripes. Those look so pretty, and the color is such a wonderful shade of pink. You can serve this plain like this, or with a little dollop of a vanilla-infused creme fraiche, or if you like, a little bit of vanilla ice cream. Your guests are going to be surprised at the delicious, amazing taste of the Rhubarb-Raspberry Cobbler. Enjoy. Loaded with both golden and dark raisins and flavored with a hint of lemon, the top of this raisin tart is polka dot and glistens from a sprinkling of sanding sugar. Let me show you how to make this timeless favorite, a raisin tart. You'll need 1.5 cups of golden raisins. These are ultra large, delicious golden raisins, and 1.5 cups of dark raisins. Put these all in a heat-proof bowl and cover with boiling water. The water serves to plump the raisins and make them nice and tender. So once these soak for 15 minutes, you can see how nice and plump the raisins have become. Now it's time to make the filling. Put the zest of 1 bright-skinned lemon and the juice of 1 lemon onto the raisins. This is a real old-fashioned tart. When people couldn't get fresh fruit, they oftentimes made tarts out of dried apricots, dried figs, but my favorite is the raisin. You can cut this in half and squeeze the juice right over all the fruit. You really want about 2 tablespoons of juice. Now stir this up and add to the raisins 1 cup of granulated sugar and 1/4 cup of flour. Now mix these raisins with the sugar and the flour. This will thicken nicely. It's going to take about 10 minutes. So that's it. So set that aside and roll out your dough. So the dough is rolled out to just a little bit larger than the tart pan itself. Fit it in carefully without tearing, and I like to use the back of my fingers to press the dough into this lovely tart pan, which is also known as a quiche pan. This is our basic pâte brisée, which you've seen me make many, many times. So now brush a little bit of water right along the edge. This is your glue. I think I'll use a brush instead of my fingers. Now fill this with your thickened raisin mixture. This should be just enough for this particular size tart. This looks so good. It is very dense and will give you a nice solid filling. Press this into an even layer. And now the top. The pâte brisée has been rolled to about 1/8 of an inch thick, and we want to do this very cute polka dot design. This reminds me of old-fashioned shaker pies. It's very charming and very simple and very delicious. Now this over the top. Center your polka dots and press the edges. That little bit of water will hold the top to the bottom. To cut off the excess pastry, just use your rolling pin like this. It works like magic. And save your extra pâte brisée. You can use it for tartlets, for little tiny pies. Okay, once you get the top affixed to the bottom, put it in the refrigerator and chill for about 20 minutes. And now make a little glaze of 1 egg yolk with a little bit of heavy cream. This is my favorite glaze for browning the tops of apple pies and raisin pies, and that's a really rich yellowy glaze. And then just carefully brush all over the top of that chilled pie. See how nice the pastry really firms up in the fridge. And have some glistening sanding sugar on hand to sprinkle all over the top. So pretty. And I bake the pie on a parchment-lined baking sheet. That way all the drips land on the parchment and not in the bottom of my oven. So this gets baked in a 425-degree oven for 20 minutes, then reduce the oven heat to 375 and bake for another 40 to 50 minutes more. Now here's our beautiful pie ready to serve. Remove the tart or pie right from the pan. Just slide it onto your serving pedestal or platter, and let's see how it slices. Use a serrated knife. I find that that works best through a dense tart like this. And always cut the second piece. Did you know that little secret? It really helps to cut two and then remove one. Yes, lovely. What a beautiful tart, enhanced by the addition of a dollop of whipped cream. Enjoy a scrumptious raisin tart any time of year. When it comes to upside-down cakes, pineapple may be the first fruit that comes to your mind. Surprise your dinner guests with this twist, mango upside-down cake. Start off with half a cup of sugar and 2 tablespoons of water. This is to create a caramel which lines the bottom of a 9-inch by 2-inch cake pan. This caramel flavors the mango, and it gives a beautiful, shiny, dark top to your upside-down cake. So the caramel, dissolve the sugar first over high heat, and then swirl it until it is the beautiful golden brown color of a caramel. While you're making caramel, always have on hand a little ice bath, just in case you get any of that caramel on any of your appendages. And you can also have a brush like this, just to brush down the inside of the pan so no crystals form. I remember my mom made lots of upside-down cakes. She made them with pineapple, of course, but she also made them with plums and peaches. This one, start with a banana. This is a mango upside-down cake, but we're using tropical fruits, and banana really does flavor the cake batter. Use a very ripe banana. This one's maybe a little too ripe, so we'll just discard the very brown part of the banana. Mash the banana really well in a bowl, and it has to be ripe. If it's a banana that's at all green or hard, it just won't mash like this. And it also doesn't have the high sugary flavor of an ultra-ripe banana. And that's good. To this, we add 1 large egg and 1 large egg yolk. So save your white. Stir this up well. And now add a half a cup of safflower oil or any other flavorless vegetable oil. And a third of a cup of buttermilk, my favorite. I love buttermilk in batters. I just love the flavor and the consistency. Oh, by the way, our sugar is melting nicely. And you can now brush with your little bit of water just all the way around the top of the sugar itself, and that will prevent crystals from forming. While I'm watching, I can add the rum. We want a golden rum and 2 tablespoons. Rum and mango, good combination. And also 1 teaspoon of the best vanilla. So now this will get whisked. And I have to now just sift my dry ingredients. But I can see here's a great color, and I think we have it. If it's smoking too much, you know it's still cooking, and if you just left it, it would turn really black. So pour that into your pan and swirl the pan, covering the entire bottom. And don't wait too long to do the swirling, because this will harden quickly. Can you see? How beautiful. And if you don't get every spot, just use a little spatula while it's still soft enough to push around. Isn't that pretty? Remember, the bottom of this cake is the top of the cake when you turn it out. So now the dry ingredients: a quarter of a teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of granulated sugar, and a cup of all-purpose flour, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder. So sift this really well. And those are your dry ingredients. You can use your cup measure to now fold flour into your liquid. So just sprinkle on top and use a rubber scraper or a whisk and stir in the dry ingredients. And after you do this, prepare your mango. But make sure your oven is preheated to 350 degrees. You'll need 2 to 3 mangoes, depending on the size of the mangoes, and you just slice down through the mango on either side of the pit. So now turn the mangoes this way and slice them into lengthwise slices. The ends are not going to be used, so save those for your fruit salad. And you want them at least 1/4 inch thick and all pretty much the same size. You're going to need around 20 good slices for a 9-inch pan. Fit them really closely together. Notice how I'm really fitting these tightly into the space. You can hear, if you listen carefully, you can hear that caramel kind of crackling with the cold, wet fruit on it. I think that's good. That'll give us a very beautiful top to the cake. Now pour your batter right on top of this. Now you could even make this with bananas, but you would use for the bottom a firmer banana than you use for the batter. So there, as nice as could be. Put that in your 350-degree preheated oven and bake until a texture in the center of the cake comes out clean. 45 to 50 minutes. Now you can let the cake cool completely, run a knife around the edge just to make sure the edges are okay. Here's a secret. Just warm it a little bit over a burner, just like that, just to make sure that the caramel is loose. I can see the cake moving, so I know it's loose. So let me just show you. See the cake moving? It's loose. You don't want to loosen it too much because you'll melt all that caramel and it'll just all run off. But now invert the cake. This is fun. Moment of truth. Oh, I heard the plop. Oh dear. It's perfect. Look how beautiful. Mango upside down cake. I do certainly hope that you've learned how to make new desserts using some extraordinary fruits. Please join me on the next episode of Martha Bakes. We'll see what else we can bake up. Cut off the top and bottom of a small, ripe pineapple. Stand the pineapple upright and cut vertically to remove the skin in strips. Carefully remove the eyes from the flesh using a small knife. Cut the pineapple into thin rounds, placed in a single layer on a parchment-lined baking sheet. Transfer to a 225-degree oven and bake, flipping halfway through until dry, about 1 hour. Cool on a wire rack. Used to decorate your favorite cupcakes.